We've been talking about this for a couple weeks now, the fact that we're having our next guest on. Excited to talk to him. And has some shows coming up this summer in our area. July 11th is going to be a part of the I Want My 80s tour. It's going to be at Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, along with another friend of ours, Mr. John Waite.
Love him.
And Wang Chung and John Cafferty, and then playing in Bethlehem at the Wind Creek Event Center on July 13th. We just played the new single called Lose Myself. And we are very stoked to have joining us, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rick Springfield. Hey, Rick, how you doing, man?
I'm good. It's nice to hear a play on song that isn't Jesse's Girl.
I had my finger on the button. I didn't hit it. But listen, and I want to touch on this new song right off the bat because it's a part of the upcoming Greatest Hits Volume 2 package, from what I understand. Is this the only new piece of music that's going to be on that, or do you have a few other songs that are going to be a part of that as well?
Yeah, there's some other unreleased things on it. It's like the best of the last 20 years. There's a song I did with the Foo Fighters called The Man That Never Was. It has never really been, it was put out on the Sound City soundtrack, but it's never really been heard very much. There's a song with Sammy Hagar I did called Party at the Beach Bar. And there's a new version of Jesse's Girl, believe it or not, because everybody says it's Jesse's Girl on this album. So we had to put it on. But yeah, there's some very, very cool cuts on it. I'm very excited about the record.
With the song Lose Yourself, now here's the deal. I Lose Myself. I will listen to the song for years. And then one day, a decade later, I'll go, oh, that's what that's about. You know, I mean, like, what is the song "Lose Myself"? What did you write this about?
Well, if it's about getting involved with somebody that where you throw everything away, and you know it's the worst thing you could possibly do, but you can't help yourself. It's the obsession song, and if you've had it in your life, then I'm sorry.
Well,
it's part of your growth.
It's sort of thing. It's the best of, well, it's the best of both worlds and can be. I mean, if you can lose yourself to someone who becomes that person, that's great. If you lose yourself to someone who's destructive. But I love the tone of it. It's funny because the way it was presented, Rick, we had our program director. We're an active rock station, and we play, some of the older stuff and new stuff, and been that way since the station's, inception, basically. But our program director, Chuck D'Amico, came to a number of the guys on the show and said, I want you to hear this song. I want you to hear this song. And it became the big buzz thing. Who is this? And then when they told it was you, everyone was like, oh, like awesome. Like he's cranking out stuff that's still vital and still works on this format. Is that sort of a feather in your cap that, rock station like MMR and I think some others, I hope some others are playing the song as well because it still works, still speaks to the format?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I get older, I think I get better at my craft. I'm hoping I do. If I don't, then I probably should be stopping. But I love writing, I love recording, and I have more to say than, obviously, like I said, as I get older, you got more to talk about.
Right.
So it's, I'm a guitar player, and I always have been, and most of my stuff is guitar-based, and it fits this type, your type of radio. Initially, back in the 80s, they were playing me, and then they found out I was on a soap opera, and they dropped it. So it took me a while to kind of get some credibility that, I'm a musician rather than just an actor that, got lucky with a song.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that clearly when that happened with you because you were really battling against that stereotype because there were actors who took the shot at, singing or performing, and they really had to try to, break into that world. You were the other way around. You started off as a musician and then found your way into acting. So that had to have been a disappointing thing to go up against.
Yeah, it was. It was very a drag because I started playing when I was 13, and I came over to America from Australia when I was 22 to pursue music, and I just kind of fell into the acting thing. But I mean, I love acting now. I mean, I've done some real interesting things. I did the Meryl Streep movie, and I've done True Detective and American Horror Stories and Californication, and some things that I can really expand on. But the initial thing, coming out of a soap, I get it. I mean, I totally get it. It was a dumb move to think that I could, go, yeah, I'm a musician, but I'm on this dopey soap opera too. It was a challenge. It's been a challenge, but I love to write. Like I said, I love to play, and when people come to the show, like the summer show, they're always blown away. So I'd rather have that than be disappointed.
No, and really, you got to do what you have to do, and you kind of let life handle, move things along for you. But you in Australia, and I didn't, really realize this, but you were. You did a documentary, or you worked on a documentary, or a part of one, about Bon Scott, who apparently was a contemporary of yours, and you guys had competing bands, and you were in that realm. And then you brought up the name. I was reading an interview with you, Rick, and this is a guy I'd never heard of, Hank Marvin. Is that correct? Is that the guy's name?
That's the guy.
And he's like revered by so many musicians. Explain who he is and explain his legend.
Well, I moved to England when I was a kid. I was about 10 years old and moved to England. And there was this band called The Shadows, and it was the first, Hank Marvin was the first English guitar hero. Before it had all been American. And you asked Jimmy Page, you asked Eric Clapton, you asked Brian May, you asked any of those guys who inspired them to play guitar, who really kind of said, oh, I can do this. It was Hank Marvin. I mean, Eric Clapton stopped a concert one time when Hank Marvin walked in and said, I want you guys to acknowledge this man. He was the first guy with a Fender, because we couldn't get Fenders or Gibsons outside of America. They were too expensive back. This is like the 50s and the 60s. And Hank was the guy that we all looked up to, said, well, if he can do it, he's English. If he can do it, then we can. It's not just an American thing. And he's still revered. I mean, I bet he's not known in America hardly, which is a shame, but he's brilliant player.
Rick, I wanted you'd mentioned Dave Grohl's name earlier. Dave has become the ultimate rock and roll ambassador in my mind. And one of the things that I thought was so cool is when that Sound City documentary came out, and he is setting up your appearance on it. And I'll paraphrase. He says, I called everybody in my phone book, and I told him, who's coming by today? Rick effing Springfield. And did your level of cred shoot way up when a guy like that gives you that shining of an endorsement to a younger audience that maybe only know you from Jesse's Girl?
Yeah, I'm sure it has some bleed over, I was just excited to be involved in the project. And certainly getting involved with other people. I mean, even doing something like Californication, I started getting high fives from all these college kids on the road,
Yeah.
So it's just a different group of people that you're introduced to through this. I mean, through Sammy Hagar, I have a rum company with Sammy, and we've done some shows together, and I've known him since the 80s, you cross over on a lot of different different audiences because of the link, and I think that's a great thing, and I'm very happy to be involved in it always.
I have to ask, and I'm dying to ask right now. Behind you have an awesome model of the Nautilus from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's spectacular. I know you collect things. Are you a genre collector like that? Because it appears to be. I don't know what's on your wall, but it looks like ray guns of some sort.
Ray guns, yeah. The ray guns.
Yeah.
It's. I'm a big steampunk fan. I think my studio probably has. This is my studio. Probably has more steampunk stuff in it than the rest of my house. But yeah, I love. I am a collector. I have a lot of interesting collections, and that was actually the artist's proof of the Nautilus.
It's amazing. It's spectacular.
It's brilliant.
Rumor has it, confirm or deny, that you have some pieces of the Titanic in your collection.
I do.
Wow. Wow. How did you come by that?
Just keep my eyes open. Like I said, I'm a collector, and I know being a collector, I know a lot of people in the different genres, and I get contacted, or I contact them. I have some amazing collection. Some of it I can't really talk about it, but it's some pretty wild stuff.
Okay, we won't press you on that.
Freak musicians out.
Yeah.
Rick, we've referenced Jesse's Girl a couple times during this conversation. You have lived with that song more than any of us have. It's your baby. You wrote it. You've performed it a gazillion times. And I'm sure like any musician or artist, at some point you might fade in and out of love with a song like that because it's so successful. You're expected to play it every time. People hear it. When you're introed onto an interview, it's played. But it's got to be the gift that keeps on giving. This little thing that you created out of thin air is still just as strong as it ever was and expected. And, I mean, it's just got to be a little piece of magic in your life.
Yeah, it is. It's really like Dave Grohl said that before his life is before Nevermind and after Nevermind, right. And it's that thing that changes you, and it is a gift because it really comes out of nowhere. I mean, I've been struggling for 10 years and written, I thought, some good songs and had a couple of good albums out, and suddenly this one song, it was the DJs of America that picked it too, by the way. It wasn't the record company. That was back when, like you guys, when you're playing stuff because you like the song. It doesn't happen a lot on radio, hardly ever anymore. But back in the 80s, they started playing it because they liked the song and they got phones and they said, the record company, you should release it as a single. And the record company went, duh, okay.
Were you initially like, oh, that one? That's the one that they really like?
I thought there was, when the Working Class Dog came out, radio stations started playing a couple of the songs. They started playing a song called Everybody's Girl, Light of Love, and there was some very pop, similar songs to Jesse's Girl on there, and I thought there were better songs than Jesse's Girl. But, history is what it is, and I'm very happy with that they picked Jesse's Girl because it seems to have grown legs beyond what I did, Well,
listen, it's a blessing, obviously, and your catalog is that much fuller. But now that we have you, might as well ask, because I always hear stories bandied back and forth. Was the original title Randy's Girl, and was it in fact Gary whose girl it was?
Well, the original guy was Gary. His real name was Gary, but to all the Garys out there, it didn't really work in the song, sorry. So I tried Randy. For some freaking reason, I thought Randy would really work. And I actually have the original lyrics that I wrote as I wrote them out. And I have Randy's Girl, and I've had all crossed out like that, and Jesse's Girl written underneath it. So I finally came up with the right name.
I wanted to ask you were talking about how acting, and you're successful in acting, obviously, and you listed off some of the things you've done, and we've loved you and all that stuff. And you were just in General Hospital, and a phenomenon. You've been candid about your depression in the past, and you talk about really struggling to get the music and so on and so forth, and then the coin is completely flipped, and now you're just getting tons of adulation and recognition, and that presents a whole new issue of how that's processed. Do you remember that point was there one epiphany where it occurred to you that, oh my God, anonymity is out of has left the barn at this point?
Yeah, it's very weird. I've been trying for a long time, and when it finally hit, it was like, oh, geez, it took you long enough. It wasn't like, really, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is so great.
Yeah.
I knew I'd envisioned, I'm a big visualizer, and I envisioned it so many times that I knew what it was going to be like almost. And it was, it is like that. But the hardest thing for me was learning to trust people, because you get a lot of people coming in trying to snake you, and win you over and get a piece of it, and that was the hardest thing for me. I still have a trust issues because of that.
It's got to be, because you have a lot of people who are, the classic hangers-on and so on and so forth. Let me ask you something that's totally detached from this, but you have a unique style of playing the guitar, and I remember in Hard to Hold, you have this real sort of Townsend sort of strum that you do. Was that something that you made the conscious effort to do, or did it just come naturally to you as a guitar player?
No, I just moved naturally on stage. Pete is obviously was one of my big role models as a guitar player. I saw them in Australia in 1966, We got a lot of. I saw the Beatles in '64 too, but I saw the Who in '66, and Pete Townshend I was going into my favorite guitar store the next day, and Pete Townshend was walking out, and I still see that. I was little. I was like 15, and he was taller than me back then.
Wow.
So it's those kind of moments that you remember. But I've always been a big Pete fan. I took the windmill a little further with the roses. I smack roses.
Very cool.
Rick, you mentioned the Beatles. There's that great documentary from Ron Howard, 8 Days a Week. I don't know if you had a chance to see that or not, but it covered their touring years. And it showed them when they went to Australia. And what a big, big deal that was. I mean, at that time, they were just venturing into lands they had never been before. So you went to that first, touchstone event for them. What was that like? Could you even hear anything? Was it that loud like we've seen the old videos?
No, you could. I could recognize every song. It was amazing, and it was the one when Ringo was sick, and I was saying, "Oh, this is the show. I want to see him. I hope Ringo comes back." And he came back on that show, and it's the most documented performance of all their 60 stuff they filmed. It was the biggest crowd they'd ever had outside the hotels in Melbourne. And
wow.
There's a whole new version of that show that I saw. And I keep looking at myself in the audience, but I don't see myself. I was 14, and all the Aussie bands that opened for them it was still the 50s to them. They had the bouffant hair and the leather suits and all this. Suddenly the Beatles walked on stage, and they looked like they'd come from another planet. They had these guitars I'd never seen. They had these Cuban heel boots. They had the hair and the suits. And then they started to sing, and it was... I was 14, and my mouth opened up, and I screamed like a girl through the whole 20-minute show. It was just insane.
Did you eventually get to meet them as you made your own way in your music career?
Yeah, I did, and I met Paul a couple of times, and I met Ringo, and I was actually I used to live on La Brea Avenue, which was down from the studio that John Lennon did the whole Lost Weekend thing. A&M Studios. And I was going to dinner one night, taking myself to dinner one night, and standing on La Brea and Hawthorne, ways to live, and this Rolls Royce drove by, and it was Lennon sitting in the passenger seat with his cloth cap and his glasses on, and he was obviously going down to A&M because that was the direction the car was headed.
So the funny thing is, and I've heard this, and McCartney recently addressed it, he said at that point in time when they were performing those concerts, they would last about 20 minutes. They were like super short.
No, it was 20 minutes, and we were all totally excited. There was 5 acts on before them. I still have my program from it, and it's an amazing thing.
Wow.
I mean, those kind of moments, like I met Elvis on a plane once too, and I wasn't a fan back then, but I am now. But you think back on those moments and you go, wow, that was kind of like meeting Jesus. It was, it's pretty amazing.
It's got to be tough to take it in at the moment and realize the weight of that. Speaking of short sets, you had a chance to play Live Aid. Rick, which were you in Philadelphia or in London?
We were in Philadelphia.
Okay, and our friends, the Hooters, played that day as well. We always ask them. They still live here locally, so we have those guys by all the time. So we always ask them.
Lovely guys. We toured with them. They're lovely.
We always ask them about their set at Live Aid, and they were like, it was over in a flash. What do you remember about that day?
Yeah, it was pretty. I was kind of nervous. Everybody, there was everyone around, and my agent at the time was dealing with Eric Clapton, and he came over and said, "Eric would like to meet you." And I said, "I can't, dude. I'm about to go on." So I've blown off some pretty big people. And I didn't even. I mean, the show's what Jesse's Girl was. I didn't even play Jesse's Girl. I think we did the new single. I did Human Touch and Affair of the Heart and a couple of other things.
Yes.
And it was. I mean, I was on the front cover of the paper the next morning because I got right into the audience and had a great shot of me with the audience. It was an amazing experience, but it did go by fast, and I was in and out like everybody was because everybody was on tour, and you came in, unless you were part of the whole organizing thing, or you were staying to do a bunch of things with other people. But I remember Run DMC were on first, and I'm standing backstage and going, what the hell is this? Guys with a friggin' turntable. I said, this will never work.
There you go. That prognostication. I wanted to ask you because...
I was wrong. long.
It's a little long. I thought this is hilarious. Apparently, throughout your life, and this explained something to me once I finally learned this, you've loved the notion of animals and pets and dogs specifically in human clothes, hence the cover of Working Class Dog, right?
Yeah. It's a weird thing.
It just cracks you up?
Well, it's weird. Little things come and bleed into your life in weird ways. I had a manager that brought me over to America, and I'd watch his dog, and I'd dress his. He had an Irish setter, and I'd dress him up in my clothes and take photos of him and laugh my ass off through the whole night.
Oh my God.
And then when it came to have this album, I had a dog that I love very much, and I said I want my dog on the cover.
Well, if I remember correctly, when you did that, and I've forgotten what breed of dog that was, it became it became very, very popular right after you had him on the cover, right?
Yeah, and they found Spuds McKenzie after
Yes.
Class Dog.
Yeah.
Which they people say, oh, you got the idea from Spud McKenzie. I said, no, Ron, my dog was first, dude.
Yeah.
And I used to call. I think someone knew me because I used to call my dog Spud.
Ah,
It was one of his nicknames, and I think someone somewhere at an ad agency must have heard that on a TV or radio or something.
I think you're owed money. I was reading stories about you recounting your childhood. You didn't have a TV. You guys you had sort of a musical family, or at least had like post dinner musical sessions. Describe what that was like.
Well, I lived in Australia, and we didn't have. We lived out in the country. My dad was in the army, but the bases were out. They weren't like army bases here. They just like take towns over, and put people in the houses, and we didn't have TV, and so after dinner we had a player piano, one of the pump ones, and I should have that actually in my house now. This same piano.
Oh, cool.
And we gather around it and put the player rolls on and sing, Roger and Hammerstein and Sorry with the Fringe on Top and all this stuff. And that's what we do for entertainment instead of watching TV. And it was great because my dad could really sing, and I started to get into music because of that.
I wanted to ask a question about songwriting, Rick. I want to go back to Lose Myself. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Rick Springfield, and we've been playing his latest single. It's called Lose Myself, and you'll find that on Greatest Hits Volume 2 package. The hook to that song is the woo thing. You just get stuck in your head. You can't stop singing that. And I'm curious about like woo-woos and things like that in songs because they're non-verbal to an extent in that they're not words. And I'm curious, and you'll hear it all throughout music. Like I'll give you an example, like the classic, "The Boxer," from Simon and Garfunkel. It's
la, la, la,
one of the greatest songs ever written. But the la 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 la, and I'm wondering if are these little placeholders that you put in place for the time being until words hit you, and then maybe you go, well, it kind of sounds good the way it is, and you stick with the woo woo woos.
Well, Lose Myself is kind of part of lose, the word lose, but it does extend, and it does become a bit of a...
So you're saying lose. It's still a new song, and I'm side-sided here. Lose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now I get it. Thank God we have him on today. Yeah.
But you can use things like that in songwriting as tools, right?
I've done that. There's a song off, a couple of songs actually off the last album, Automatic, that have hey yahs in them. There was a song we do live from the Snake King called Voodoo House. It has a big hey yah chorus that everybody joins in, and it's a kind of it's group therapy in a live situation. I mean, singing together lifts something in your heart. It's been proven that it does something to your brain, and it's amazing. It's a way to connect. That's what hymns are all about in church: is singing in unison, singing together, and so it's a great way to kind of get people to sing along. And I don't know, when it pops into your head, I don't know where songs come from to begin with. So it's just one of those things that happens if you're open to it.
I have to ask this question. In which room of the house you're currently in, is there a picture of you painted of you 150 years old? And Howie, because you are defiant. We're looking at you now. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy has not. This is absolutely the portrait of Dorian Gray here.
Unreal.
It's here somewhere, but I don't know.
We're not allowed to look at it.
Not allowed to look.
Yeah.
All right, give us, if you were to guess at one lifestyle habit that could result in the kind of age-defying face you have right now, what can we do? Be born of your parents? Is that the only way?
No, it's part genetic. I mean, I've always watched what I eat. I've always been very careful what I eat. I've always worked out, and I listen to the doctors. I have it's hilarious. As I get older, my doctor list in my phone gets longer and longer and longer. But as now it's not preventative. Now it's not we need to fix this. Now it's preventative, getting in there first. I mean, they wanted to have me on one of the New York morning shows because I've been doing the pre-nouveau scans. And there's a lot of talk about that, the whole body scans where you find out really what's going on inside.
Right.
You can be unpleasantly surprised, but it's over a course of years, you can track what's happening to your body and all that kind of stuff. I've always been very into that. My dad died early from not paying attention to that stuff, and it was a lesson I learned from my great dad to stay healthy, try and stay healthy.
Do you have any grandkids?
Well, as a matter of fact, we have one coming up. Yes.
Oh, this is brand new news.
Yes, it is. It's actually no one really knows, but yes.
Breaking news! Breaking news right here on the Preston Steve Show.
Breaking news.
Well, impending congratulations.
Wow, when is that going to happen?
July, and it's going to be a daughter and a granddaughter, and I'm thinking, maybe sir or your eminence rather than granddad.
As the name. Do me a favor, though, Rick. I mean, sure, she's going to be a wonderful little bundle of joy, but keep her away from that Nautilus submarine because it's too perfect.
Dude, none of the little kids ever touch my toys. Right?
Rick, is it okay if I ask you one more question about Jesse's Girl?
Yeah.
Okay. How many people, that song came out in 1980, how many people learned the word moot because of your song? Because the point is probably moot. That's how I learned what that word meant. And have you heard that many, many times over the years?
I have, actually. People said, the song sent us to the dictionary as kids. So, and it's very weird because it's still not understood. I've seen a couple of karaoke versions, and they spell it M-U-T-E.
Oh, yeah, because they want to rhyme it with cute, and artistic license allows you to rhyme it with cute, but maybe the karaoke machine shouldn't do it that way.
The karaoke machine gets it wrong. It's M-O-O-T, meaning, it's beside the point. It's irrelevant.
I wanted to ask you, being with John Waite, and we're friends with John Waite. He's a terrific guy, and as always, just amazing. And then the other acts on the bill. This is we're in a point now, obviously, and we've seen it happen. We've been on the air for 27 some odd years, and you start to see people as their careers move along. They hit that sweet spot where, like for example, aspects of your capabilities become revelations to people who've always been fans, but now have the access to this information. Do you feel, I mean, I don't want to say you have a long and wonderful career, but is this like on a particular high note for you right now where you are?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I consider high notes to be kind of new projects and stuff, like getting the movie with Meryl Streep. That was a high point, with Jonathan Demme directing, who directed
Silence of the Lambs.
It wasn't a real successful movie, but it was a great experience. Certainly having a new record out is a high point. And a tour like this, it's getting a lot of attention, which is great. It's me, John Waite, who I love, and been friends with John for quite a while. Wang Chung, who I was a fan of in the 80s, loved their first album, which actually wasn't even a hit over here, is my favorite album. It's amazing. And Paul Young, who I brought his bass player over from England because I loved the sound of his first record, Tino Palladino, and played on one of my albums.
Wang Chung did, and a lot of people don't realize, I think it's one of the greatest soundtrack albums of all time, To Live and Die in L.A. That I mean, just the regular musical stuff throughout that is terrific. So, do you is a part of the thrill of being on a show on this tour like this is just reconnecting with other bands you've been friends with and having that sort of familial capability?
It's not really reconnecting. It's almost like connecting to begin with, because when you're young, you know, in the '80s, it was all like, yeah, man, you know, you're seeing backstage, you go, yeah, you're okay, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want to get to know you because, you know, I'm cooler than you are, or maybe I'm afraid I'm not as cool as you are, or whatever. You know, it's insecure shit that now, I mean, I love to meet everybody. You know, I never did it because I was worried about myself. I was worried about my position. I was worried about who they were. You know, you get a lot of stupid things that fall by the wayside once you get past that.
Yeah.
And you know, John's a great. We got very, 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 very drunk one night, and I ended up breaking a rib. Fell over, and it was awful. But we had a lot of fun together, and we've been friends ever since that. And Paul Young is a lovely guy. We've played with him before. He's John Cafferty I just met, and Wang Chung I have not met yet. So hopefully I'll have a good report on that. They are good guys too.
We hope
Rick,
as well.
Interesting thing, you know, you mentioned about the competition in the earlier days, and I read Sammy Hagar's biography, and I also read Alex Van Halen's. You've mentioned Sammy a couple of times, and obviously you guys have had a long time connection. But he wrote many times back in the earlier days about how there were like feuds with bands, and in those formative days, and you see it in the hip hop community now a little bit, but it seems that it's not the same as it used to be.
No, it's a young thing, honestly. You know, to be honest, it's a young thing. I mean, I remember reading a thing from that I was in Palm Springs, and it was like in the '80s. I'm reading this article that Sammy did about what crap REO Speedwagon are, and now him and Kevin are close friends. You know, it's kind of very. You do that stuff. I mean. But you know, the hip hop thing, that's kind of become a cliche to have. You know, you got to have a nemesis. So But that's again, it's a young thing. You know, I think you see Ice-T and those guys. They're not slamming anybody anymore.
Yeah, right. I guess you're right.
They're doing commercials for the lending tree. Yeah,
an actual iced tea.
Actual iced tea. Yeah.
This is
the
true.
mellowness of age, you know. Is what it is.
Well, listen, man, we're delighted with this new song. MMR is really happy to be playing this. We love it. Every time it comes on, we're all kind of looking at each other, singing along. We're singing along to it. It's such a great hook, man. And we're happy that you're going to be coming in the area. I just want to reiterate that Rick will be in town, like we said, with the I Want My 80s tour, Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City on July 11th. And then the Wind Creek Event Center in Bethlehem on July 13th as well. So, but it's just great to talk to you, and we're happy that you're still cranking out great songs, man. So good on you, bud. We appreciate the all the music and all the positive vibes.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, guys.
All right, take care of yourself, gang. It's Rick Springfield on the show, and we'll play this. He thought he was going to get away scot-free without hearing this.
Well, now that he's sort of given the sign off on it. Yeah.
So you know what's
listen, a great song's a great song.
A great song is a great song. Absolutely. Oh wait,
He's still listening.
sorry, Rick. We had to play a little bit of Jesse's Girl there.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm fine with it.
All right, we'll see you, man. But I mean, like, my 18-year-old sings along with this song. Of course. You know, I mean, it's
It's a great song.
yeah.
Yep.
Come on.
Randy's Girl.
Randy's girl. Gary's girl. Oh, Gary. All right, well, listen, I think we ought to take a break.
Yeah.
Back in a second. We got some Bizarre File stories, so stick around. We'll return with that in just a moment.